Hey bakers, welcome back to Bake Angel, and today we're going to make another allergy-friendly baking recipe. This is my gluten-free and dairy-free fruit crumble cake, so let's get started with it. Now first of all, we're going to grease a 9 by 13 inch baking pan. Once you've thoroughly greased the sides and the bottom of that, you're then going to line it with some parchment paper, and this is just to make sure the cake is really easy to remove once it's actually been baked. And you're going to want to pop your oven on to preheat it for 350 degrees Fahrenheit as well, whilst we start to make the cake base. So here I'm mixing together some vanilla bean paste, brown sugar and plant-based butter. Now of course all of the recipe links will be in the description below as well, where you can get the quantities for this recipe. Mix those three ingredients together, and as you can see I'm using a hand mixer here. You could do this in a stand mixer as well, and you could also do it by hand. It does actually come together very quickly, so use whatever tools you have available to you in your kitchen. Now once those three ingredients are combined, we're going to start to add everything else to it. This cake does have quite a lot of eggs in it. It has 4 in total, and my top tip for this cake is actually to add the eggs one at a time to make sure that each of them is fully combined with the rest of the ingredients in our bowl. Give it a bit of a mix, and you'll notice the more eggs you add, the wetter that cake batter actually gets. But it's not going to curdle or anything, because we will be adding our flour to it very shortly. Okay, so that's the third egg done, just one more to add in. And of course these eggs were at room temperature as well, as was my butter at the start of the recipe. Give that a final stir, make sure everything looks great. Now we can start to add the last few elements to this. And to make it gluten-free, I actually decided to use just a regular gluten-free flour blend. To that I added a little bit of salt and some baking powder as well. Give that a stir in the bowl, and then you're going to add it to the cake batter. Now the reason I don't dump it all in at once is because I just want to give it a chance to incorporate fully, and sometimes that doesn't work out if you dump it all in, and you'll end up having to mix it a lot more. So you can see there's just a couple of mixes that we're doing to make sure everything is incorporated, but we're not over mixing it, because that can actually make gluten-free cakes really dense. So just stir it until everything is combined, like you can see here. Then the final easy stage is to add all of that lovely cake batter into your prepared baking tin. And I'm just going to use my spatula here to make sure I clean everything out of that bowl. Then we're going to also spread it out evenly into the pan as well. When you're spreading your cake batter, do make sure that you get it all the way into the corners of your tin as well, and you want to make sure it's really evenly spread out. Now this batter does look quite thick. Again, that's just because of the different ingredients that we've used. So what I tend to do as well is give it a couple of taps on the counter, and that will help to level everything out. Next we're going to go on to making the fruit topping for this, and honestly, you could do any combination of fruit that you like here. I decided to add strawberries and also some fresh peaches as well. To them, I had also stirred together some more gluten-free flour and some brown sugar. Now, the reason I'm adding the flour in here is actually because that will prevent the fruit from sinking all the way to the bottom. Now, as this cake bakes, that fruit will sink slightly and distribute a little, but we actually want to try and keep it higher up in the cake than having it all the way through. And that's why we're adding it on top of the cake batter instead of mixing the whole thing together. As with our cake batter, you want to spread that out evenly with your spatula or wooden spoon as well. Don't worry if you pull up some of the cake batter when you're doing that. It's still going to sit on top, and look how wonderful and colourful it is. And of course, as I said earlier, you could add any kind of fruit to this. Just make sure you cut them up to a similar size. And then finally, we're adding our crumble topping to it. Now my crumble is just a simple recipe of gluten-free flour, plant-based butter, brown sugar and a little bit of salt, and honestly it really makes the difference to this crumble cake. I find it just gives it that really nice extra bite on top, so you've got a few textures going on once it's baked. Then we're simply going to pop it in the oven, Bake it for between 50 to 60 minutes until it looks like this. Look how golden and beautiful that looks. Now I did actually let it cool for a little while before turning it over, and you can see I just use another pan to help do that because it's quite big, and a nice soft cake like this would have a tendency to break if you just flipped it onto your hand. So always use something else that you have, whether that's a cutting board or another clean baking pan, to help you turn it out. Then, as you can see here, I've got it on my cutting board. I'm going to take away some of those side pieces of parchment that we added, and we can go ahead and cut it up and see what it looks like inside. Now, I really like the simplicity of this cake. It essentially is a very basic sheet cake recipe with a fruit topping and then crumble on top. So you really could do a lot of different things with it, and make sure you check out the recipe link in the description below, where I'll have lots of different options of things you could do with this cake. Now let's have a look inside. Look how great that looks. You've got that lovely crumble top, you've got that nice layer of fruit as well, and then a really generous depth to the cake itself. And I cannot wait to try this, guys. Let me know in the comments below if you're going to have a go at making this recipe, and of course share with your friends if you think this is something they might like to bake as well. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. If you enjoyed this recipe, make sure you check out more of my bake along recipes on this playlist.